So I had so much fun working on the last color palette speed draw challenge that I thought I wanted to do another one. And I did this one in the exact same way that I did the last one. I got a randomly generated color palette, which you can see in the top right, and I hid the colors from myself while I was working so that I could only see the values and I could only work with the values because I thought it made for a really interesting workflow. It was an interesting challenge for me, being only able to work with 5 colors because usually I prefer more. And then I found that the final result on the last ones was really, really interesting. And it was definitely something that I wouldn't make on my own outside of the challenge. So I kind of wanted to do some more, and I did this on the exact same day that I did the last one. That's how excited I was about it. And for this drawing, I chose to draw an OC of mine that I've been drawing since I was about 13 years old. He's gone through several iterations since then, but it's something that I've been drawing for so long that I'm very used to it and I'm very good at it, which is good for when I'm working on learning something new or doing a challenge or getting used to something, because both the color palette challenge and the recording and narrating over it are very new to me. So drawing something that I'm very, very used to reduces the number of variables in that process. And I think that is helpful. Of course, if you wanted to, you could spam 18 different new things to you all at once, and that would probably give you a really good idea of what things you liked and what things you didn't all at the same time. But for me, I prefer to take it slow. So all of the color palette things I've done so far have all been fairly simple drawings. In fact, I don't know if I could even try to do a speed draw or speed paint of something more complicated, because when I do more complex drawings, especially things with detailed backgrounds, I tend to use like 100+ layers, and that already makes my computer really, really angry at me. And that combined with having OBS open would probably push it over the edge. So I don't know if that's even a possibility, but if it is, I would definitely like to try it. It would probably make working too annoying, but we'll see. So I spent a really long time on the sketch because I just didn't know what I wanted to do. You saw that I put him in like 18,000 poses before I finally decided to start doing the colors. But I did like the pose that I settled on. You know, you should never go with your first idea. So once I settled on a pose, I started putting in the colors. And the nice thing about working with the workflow that I use is, I decided that the skin tone was not interesting enough in that color, so I made it one value darker. The nice thing about this workflow is that if a color is under something else, then you don't need to fill it in exactly. Like you can see with the face, it's kind of just a big blob of color because most of that will be hidden under the hair layer. Also, I resolved that tangent with the pizza box. Thank you. That was driving me insane for a second, and I was worried that I left it. That's the other unfortunate thing about looking at your art even 1 second after you're done. You will immediately notice a million flaws that you are now too lazy to go back and fix. So now I'm just going in and doing the colors. I think, this is the negative part of working in the workflow. If you need to have things lined up a certain way, sometimes there's no helping having to just go go along the edge of another color, like you saw me do with the arm. And that can be really annoying, especially because I'm kind of finicky with the way I draw things. Maybe finicky is not the right word, but I'm a perfectionist about some little things, which I probably don't need to be that perfectionist about. But if you do that drawing along the edge of something else kind of wrong, then to me it throws the whole thing off a little bit. One of the errors I made in this drawing was I didn't use a consistent width for any of the line art. As you can see, that line on the shoulder is probably, well, I'm not sure, but you'll notice it later. The line on the shoulder is a lot thinner than the lines on the face. Also, I accidentally turned off the black and white for a second. I did that in part because I was worried that I had been color picking from the grayscale ones, which would mean that I was actually drawing in black and white and not just thinking that I was drawing in black and white. And I actually, if you have eagle eyes, you'll notice that I made that mistake when I drew the raccoon on his hat. There was some gray in there that wasn't supposed to be there, but I did fix that retroactively. Here I got bold and I tried to do the Pizza Shack logo. I just thought, well, one, I thought it would look really interesting given the limited color palette. I also thought it would look good in black and white. And finally, I thought that the shirt and the pizza box were looking kind of plain, and I knew if I drew it on the shirt, I could copy and paste it onto the box just to make it a little bit better. This is where the hardest part of doing the palette challenge comes in, is the shading. And here I decided that the solution to the shading being difficult was to add more lines. And I think that worked out pretty well for this drawing, but I don't think I could have it work reliably for several future ones, but who knows really, because I haven't done many palette challenges like this aside from these two that I've done already. So I'm going in, I'm doing the shading, I'm trying to do it one value darker than the value that the color is. Here I add more lines because I want to add shadows behind parts of the beard. And you can see, if you've been paying attention on the left, I have a reference up. I guess it wasn't a reference for the pose I wanted to draw, which is usually what I use reference for because I'm fairly bad at anatomy when I'm blind, or doing it just straight out of my head. Also, you can see now I have to go and find the layer that little thing is on. I'm fairly bad at anatomy doing it off the cuff, so I usually have a reference. But this time I decided I will completely ignore my reference. I guess it was just kind of to fit the general vibe. Also here, I kind of cheated on the palette challenge because I set my brush to multiply to do the logo. Which, is it cheating? Is it being practical? I don't really know, but that does generate colors beyond just the 5 on the palette, so maybe it's cheating, but also I'm not going to go in and spend 18 hours just slowly picking away at each tiny part of the logo on the area I want to shade, because I don't want this drawing to take all day. I think it took me about 45 minutes to finish the whole thing, and that's pretty fast for me. I think I was rushing a little because I was self-conscious about recording my drawing. Here I couldn't decide what shadows I wanted to put on the beard, and I think I eventually just decided to leave it, which is fine, but I think if I was doing this not in a color palette challenge, I would have done it differently. And then, once again, I struggled really hard with the background because it's pretty difficult to come up with a background that your character stands out against when you're using the same 5 colors that your character is. So I was thinking pizza delivery theme, so I put him in like this abstraction of a doorway. And then I finally cheated a little bit, and the space behind the doorway I turned to light orange, so there's technically a 6th color too. Yeah, there, I turned the opacity down on it. So that's the finished product. The only other thing is that regardless of how you look at it, he's either standing inside your doorway or he's facing away from your door outside of your doorway. So it doesn't make any sense. But, you know, I think it makes for a little bit better composition this way. Anyway, I thought that the final result was really nice, and I really liked how the palette worked out for it, especially because I didn't know until the drawing was done how it was going to look. I thought, I don't know, this palette does just have a pizza delivery vibe to me, so I was really glad that that's the theme I went with. Anyway, that's another color palette challenge done. I think I'm going to do 1 or 2 more of these because they've been really fun and I kind of want to stretch my limits with them. So, but that's the end result for this one, and have a good day.